Don't dislocate your arm patting yourself on the back.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Darksiders III Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. This is the Depths and Gluttony, everybody's favourite car salesman. And as you can tell, I've had a problem with my audio, which is really frustrating. So, to give you some information you probably don't need and you probably don't care about, OBS is a strange mistress, and it's the feature that I used to record this walkthrough. And what happens, guys, is when you plug in Sennheiser headphones, which has its like own proprietary sound thing that pops up, it kills the audio on your desktop to OBS. And this happens in my streams all the time, and I have to correct it, and it takes like 30 seconds to correct. But for some reason, I just didn't realise that it happened when I was recording. I don't know why. Maybe I got carried away at the prospect of, being this close to the end of the game and making this walkthrough and getting to the end of it and sharing it with you guys and hopefully helping you out. And whatever it was, it ended up fucking me, and there's nothing I can do to fix it because I didn't back up a save or anything like that. I can't select missions and just re-record this section again, as much as I totally would do that because it's an easy section. But it's a long section too, and I think that's how you know that the divinities are against you, when there are videos in this walkthrough that are 10 minutes long, and it didn't happen to those, but instead it happened to a video that's 40 minutes long. 40 fucking minutes, this video, and no audio. So instead what I've done is I've taken the music from the underwater section and I've just looped it, and it's a really, really nice piece of music that's kind of got the mysteria, like it's got the exploration, the mysteriousness to it. Sounds like something out of a Spielberg movie. It does exactly what it needs to do, and we're just being talked to right now as we've got the new ability by the Watcher. And the sequences coming up are not too difficult. There's a couple of areas we're going to be running past because they're so densely filled with enemies it gets real dangerous. Also, you won't get a checkpoint here until you get back to the place where Vulgrim was before we went for Lust. And to do that we have to run a pretty interesting gauntlet coming up. But look how long she fucking talks for. It's so ridiculous. This is the reason I've been trimming these out. Because it goes on forever and you can't do anything. And it's really annoying. That's the type of piece of mechanic that should exist, but exist in a better form. Why can't I move around and attack things and pick things up and jump when she's talking to me? It makes no fucking sense. The only reason that I can think of is that it's masking loading, and if it is masking loading, why the fuck doesn't it mask loading at other parts when it does it so goddamn fragrantly in your face? Like, I don't understand. But here is the new weapon that comes with the new hollow. It's a big hammer. It's a really, really fun weapon, but my problem with it is it's a little bit slow and its range is a bit limited when you hit people, because half the time when I use this in the middle of a combo, I've knocked somebody away and it misses. So just be aware that it is powerful and it has a really good knockback and it has really good interrupt as well, but it's kind of slow. The coolest thing you can do with this weapon is to just frame it, which is the same as just framing the other weapons. If you hold Y or triangle till it glows and it blinks and you release it and you hit them with that pretty quick smack, it will completely stop an enemy in their tracks. So if an enemy's coming to attack you and he's in a moving animation that ends with a swing, you'll knock him away and he'll complete the animation as he slides away. So it's really, really good at kind of pushing people off you. And if there was a need for it, I'd use it in some pretty creative places, but you really don't need to do that. And that's one of the weaknesses of a lot of the hollow tools. As cool as they are and as functional as they are, there's no real demanding moment that demands that you use them. And this is the part where things get really, really crowded too, with the warden and everything. So I'm just going to take my time breaking the new resources and picking up all the lurcher clusters, which you should be doing the same, guys. Once again, if you don't see me do it, doesn't mean I'm not doing it. Please do it. It just helps you out in the end of the game. There's another thing I've been meaning to speak of, but I might not have mentioned. I'm going to go back and maybe add it in the description of the first video, or maybe in the comment section for people. But do not use the luminous visages. It's such a bait and switch, guys. It really is. You think you're getting a free level up because you are, but you're also getting much more difficult everything else. And it is subtle, so it's not the end of the world if you do this, but it's definitely not the best thing to do on an economic level. So, for people who are not too familiar with the Luminous Visage, it is an item that gives you a free attribute that you can spend. But what it doesn't seem to tell you is when you do that, it inflates the price of leveling up with Vulgrim. And every time you use these visages, it increases it again. So by the end of the game, I think I have about 9 of these items. And when I used all 9 of them, I think it put him up by 15,000 souls, which is quite a lot. But it's not the end of the world because it is incremental. So if you've been using them, you're not going to miss out too much. It just means that you might get robbed a little bit, and there'll be 1 or 2 levels worth of experience that you could have got that you're missing out on. And it's just one of the ways to kind of try and min-max your way through the game to make sure you have the biggest advantage. Because when you're playing on a harder difficulty, which has a game that is as punishing as this one, it benefits you to make sure that you have every advantage, and that is one of them. But it's something I should have mentioned at the beginning, and I didn't because I forgot. But here is the underwater section, which I really love how this area looks. I think they did a really good job with just all the luminous plant life and coral stuff. And it's got some nice colours with the hybrids between the reds and the blues. And of course, when you use the Force Hollow, which is this one I've got on right now, you can walk around underwater because it makes you sink. And then you can fight these electric fish, which are actually more awkward than you'd think because the whip misses them. It's the same problem that the whip has with flying enemies. It's just not very good at hitting things. Which, the one thing you use a whip for is to give you range, right? You'd think it would be better, but it most certainly is not. But this is also the part of the game where you'll notice those micro stutters that happen in the game a lot don't happen here. So this area looks really fluid. And there's a certain part of it as well coming up that looks amazingly fluid. Because when you go back to these areas, it goes back to doing its thing. And that's me using the wrong ability. Always fun. As the Skellybob bangs his sword on the ground and does a little taunt. I do find it interesting that the enemies can taunt. I like the idea of that. Doesn't seem to do much for them though, except for give me an opportunity to smack them with my giant hammer. But look at the knockback on that hammer, it's crazy. I just don't see how it helps, unless you use it defensively. And the game here is amazingly forceful. Just in case you didn't know, guys, you can lock onto 3 things and open this door. We're going to keep it on the screen, though, just in case you're blind. Which can happen. It's been known to happen. But here's your Vulgrim station, here's your checkpoint. And then the next room is an interesting one. There is a ton of stuff to find in this next area, but all you have to do to proceed the game is to get a sword and stick it in the puzzle at the end of the room. But I want to explore because I want to get all the good stuff. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. You're going to get introduced to a new enemy here as well. He's kind of like he reminds me of a few things. He really does. He reminds me of a bunch of Final Fantasy VIII enemies, kind of mixed in together. There he is. He likes to do this opening spinning move, and it goes for a long time unless you dodge, so be very careful. Also, don't fall into this area that I'm in, because it just doesn't end well. Guy's an arsehole. Here he comes. I'm going to get hit by these guys a lot as well, because for some reason my dodges were not on point during this recording. But here he comes. When he's on the ground and when he's close, he's easy because all of his moves have terrible startup, so you'll frame advantage him every time. But at a distance, he has a really powerful move. And there's also a section in the game where they put him behind a wall to cheap shot you with a two-hander, and that one's quite quick, but it's only quick because the startup happens before you turn the corner, which is really interesting. But here right now is the swimming mechanic of the game. If you mash... oh gosh, that got messy. If you mash dodge while in the water, you do this awesome kind of Zora-esque pirouette. And here comes another bad guy. That's one of the cool things about missing with the whip. Like, you'll start a combo with the whip and you'll kind of go, oh bugger, I missed. But then you realise, hang on, I missed the hit that doesn't do that much damage, and now when I finally hit them, I'll do good damage, so it's probably not the end of the world. These mines are annoying too. I don't really understand what they add to this section. Just a bunch of bitches. And if you swim properly, you can get away from them without them blowing up, but I guess I just wasn't doing a very good job of that. I do like this area though. It's one of those areas that I think has got... Conventionally for me, water levels are bad. Water levels always symbolise some kind of challenge that I didn't like when I played them. Sonic, suffocating. Zelda, confusing, you know. Water temples, famous for its wonderful design. Even though it does have some elegant design, it's one of the dungeons that's really easy to get stuck on. Here he comes again, boom. For some reason I thought I could stop that with my attack, and I think you can, but I didn't do it right. So you're going to see me trading with this creature a lot. I do like water levels though when they're done correctly. There's just something about them. And in this game, because there's no fear of drowning, it makes it very relaxing and very interesting to navigate. Which is what it should be about, you know. That's what Echo the Dolphin did well, right? Just lets you swim around a little bit. But more of the explosives, more of the fish. One thing to note, you cannot attack when you're in swimming form. So you need to turn into the force form to be able to defend yourself. Which is something that's going to really come in handy. As watch just up here. So boom. The time it took me to transform into force form then and land, I got hit by the fish. So you need to be careful. The game is definitely against you in those moments, because the transformation should be instant, but it's not. And it leads to bad things. But keep on exploring. Keep on doing the underwater goodness. I wonder if there's any Easter eggs in this area. As we swim over here. I'm trying to think of the stuff that I should be talking about, because I feel like there's several things I wanted to mention and haven't mentioned, like the Luminous Visage. The game has optional bosses in it, if you're interested. There are a handful of bosses that if you beat them, they give you an essence of a Chosen, and the essence of the Chosen is what you use to fully upgrade the amulets that go inside your weapons that give you the passive benefits and such, which are really, really good if you want them, but there's only 2 of them I ever use. One of them is pretty interesting. One of them, which we got in the area where Lust was, is extra iframes in your roll. So if you're having problems with the roll and the invincibility, and just getting hit when you feel like you shouldn't get hit, if you upgrade that amulet, it will alleviate that to an extent. Everybody I've seen play the game has used it, and I assume it makes it better, but I haven't tried it myself. I have only ever used it at its base level of 8%, and I honestly couldn't tell a difference. I didn't do any extensive testing, but I didn't feel like I was getting the biggest advantage, so that's probably for someone else to test, but I get the feeling a lot of people are going to go towards that because the roll is kind of annoying. I do think that ball is fantastic as well. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but when the first time Fury turned into that strange nucleus that has all the rocks generating around it like a gyroscope, I just thought it was fantastic. I didn't expect it, and I thought it was really charming, and it's another one of those moments where I love the way those rock faces look that have the like amethyst crystals on them, and then when you use that crazy nucleus ability to ride across them like a Scalelectric, it feels great. It's one of those moments where you kind of go, this is why this game is fun, and this is why this game is good. It has these moments of being a really fun game. And then the next room you get cheap shot by something that instantly kills you, and you're like, oh my god, I hate my life. But in that moment beforehand, there's a wonderful, a really, really nice innocence of having a good time. Well, speaking of having a good time, in this room, you have to complete a puzzle involving the block and your boomerang thing, but there's a lot of skeletons, so I recommend that you get rid of the skeletons before you mess around with this. The easiest way, of course, is to go into Havoc mode and then just completely roll over them, but I think I might be doing that. Yeah, there we go. The moment I get tagged, I don't want to mess up and go back to that Vulgrim point, so just do this. This is what this ability does so well, but be very careful coming out of it. The amount of times you come out of the animations and the moment you're vulnerable you get hit by something is pretty high. There's the counterattack with the hammer, by the way, if you've never seen it. The good thing about the hammer's counterattack is that it has incredible knockback. And I think that's what I'm going to talk about, actually. I'm going to talk about the hollow weapons. And then this guy sits on top of the block, banging his sword, which is pretty funny. I thought that would knock him off, but it didn't. It just made him happy. So, if you're not aware, guys, when you do an arcane counter, you don't have to press square and use the barbs of scorn. You can use the other hollow weapon that the King of Hollows has been giving us. And the fire one does a really fast forward-moving double drop kick flip. The lightning one does kind of like a thrusting javelin hit, and then of course the big hammer, as you saw, does a flipping hit that does a big knockback. And knockdown, which can be useful against bigger things if you want to isolate them and then loop them, so definitely bear that in mind. The frost one, I couldn't honestly tell you. I don't think I've ever countered with that weapon, the Stasis Hollow. I don't know particularly what that one does. But additionally, each of them has a different Wrath ability. The standard Wrath ability is just a single, like, ground pound. The fire one, which you've seen me use a lot, is kind of an aura that puts on Fury that increases her ambient immolation damage, or some statistic like that. It simply means that when you stand next to enemies, they take fire damage from you burning. And it can be pretty cool. I don't use it because I like it. I use it because it's on the weapon that gives me the double jump, and I feel like the double jump weapon is a bit of a crutch for the game. When you don't have it, you always have to double jump, and it's one of the limitations on the systems which I would have loved to have seen removed. I think you should get the abilities without having to go into the hollows to use them. You should only have to go to the hollows to change element, and I think that would be fine. Because then you would be able to run around as a lightning person rather than always having to double jump all the time. I just don't think it helps the flow of the game and the navigation. But the lightning one is something you haven't seen me use, but I recommend it wholeheartedly because it's very strong. So when you use the lightning wrath attack, it sends out a bunch of tornadoes that repeatedly bang on enemies and stun them. And if used correctly on certain bigger creatures and even bosses, you can stun lock people and put them in a position where you can hit them a ton and make them flinch, and it's incredibly good. I haven't used it because I haven't really needed to, but I wouldn't hold it against you if you did. That's how good it is. It's a really, really good tool, and it's useful too for kind of delaying enemies and kind of diverting them. So it has a ton of different features that I recommend you experiment with, because it's certainly the better choice between the flame one and the lightning one. The lightning one wins every time, in my opinion. So the Force Hollow does a really interesting one. It is a smash that knocks everything into the air in a massive knockback effect, and it does really good damage too. Oh, I hope I saw the nipple over there on the roof, but I don't think I did. Did I miss that? Yeah, I think I did. That was unfortunate. The things you see when you're not playing, isn't it interesting? Ooh, this is a dangerous room as well. You didn't see then because I ran past it pretty swiftly, but there is an enemy in that room that is taken directly from Darksiders 2. He was the hardest enemy in Darksiders 2, the shield guy, and it was a huge skeleton that had like a horned helmet and a massive shield, and he was just a bit of a pain in the ass. And he's in this game, and he was in that room. There was two of them, so there's no way I'm fighting two of them at the same time in that room. I decided to run past them. Fortune favours the bitch in this particular engagement, and then when you come into the water again, you're going to be assailed by fish and more of those blue guys. But ability wise, I was talking about what the different wrath tools give you, and then the final one is the stasis one, which I think is the most broken one in the game, and I don't really agree with it personally, but I can understand why everybody uses it. The Stasis Wrath Mod is invincibility, seemingly. You activate it, the bar starts decreasing. Every time you get hit, it takes chunks off the bar. And then even on this difficulty, you can survive one-shots by using that ability. So if you're not confident in your dodging, or something's killing you in a move you don't know how to get rid of, other than being able to use the transformation animation as an iframe, which you could use, you can then also, if you do it with the Stasis Hollow, you can then be invincible as well. So I believe the Stasis Hollow is probably the most broken thing in the game, in my opinion, because not only is the activation of it invincible, so you can use that to get through almost any attack in the game, but then afterwards, as long as you have meter, you will not take damage. And I don't use it purely because I feel like it's cheating, but additionally, I I only knew about it until later on in the guide. And I tested it. Oh wow, do you see the frame rate? Look at it. Look how different the frame rate looks in this room, guys. Can you see the video? How bizarre. Look at it. This is what the game should run like all the time. Do you see how smooth this is? What a contrast, right? What a complete bizarre contrast. This is what the game looks like when it's not micro-stuttering. It looks great as well. It looks absolutely beautiful. But it never runs like that outside of a few moments. It's never that smooth, and it's so unfortunate. God, you could see it. It was like a transition, and you might not have seen it because I know not everybody has frame-sensitive eyes. But it's something that you develop the more time you play on higher frame rates, guys. I think the reason that I'm so sensitive is because I'm a giant pussy. But additionally, I play a clone hero on 1,000 frames a second. And of course, you can't tell the difference between 1,000 frames a second and 200 frames a second. It's too fast. But you see when the drops happen. Whenever there's any fluctuation, that's what your eye notices. And I notice fluctuation on Clone Hero because it's a Unity game and it runs like shit. It doesn't even matter if you have the best machine, it still runs crappy. And like on my machine, it runs fine every so often. And then there's just little spikes every moment on new versions of the game where what's wrong with my tongue? Where the frame rate goes crappy, and you spot it, and it's confusing, but then it goes back to normal and everything's good again. But those fluctuations, you feel them immediately, and I think by playing so much of that as I have, because I play a lot of Clone Hero, I think it makes you a bit more susceptible to spotting it. But I know there's a lot of people that don't think frame rate matters and they don't care about frame rate, which is, fair for them. But here is another one of the dialogue moments with the Watcher as we're introduced to Gluttony, the bunk bed buddy of Glaucoma, his cousin. And then there's the Vulgrim point, so we get our checkpoint, and now we can move onwards. So the rest of this mission now is kind of more of the same. It's a lot of underwater stuff. This is a location where you're going to be fighting Gluttony on his second phase. This is a pretty intimidating room because it makes you think you're going to have to fight something here, but you don't. It happens naturally during the boss fight. And if you get to this room, don't worry guys, because this is the easiest part of the fight. If you had to fight Gluttony the same way you fight him in the first phase, he'd probably be one of the harder bosses, especially for casuals, because you can't mash Gluttony. And one thing I learnt, especially from watching our good old buddy Darkside Phil, is that once he got enough health upgrades, once he got his health to about level 15, he could wail on everything on normal and not really have a problem. Only so often would he ever get killed. And then of course, because the guy has absolutely no fucking shame, he uses the Undying Crystals, so he gets revived when he does die, and still bitches. But he couldn't do that to Gluttony. Good old Gluttony was too good. And he ended up getting pretty frustrating and he died. And I knew that it was going to happen because he has a move that's really, really tough to dodge. And when I say it's tough to dodge, it's impossible to dodge through. You don't have the iframes. It's too active. And I've tried for a long time. So the only way to dodge it is to use iframes to get out of its range or to jump over it. And the jump technique is really good, but the problem is, sometimes he'll do more than one, and as you're coming down, you'll generally land in the second one, which makes it really bad. But one of the things you'll notice about that particular technique that the boss has, is sometimes he doesn't do it more than once. Sometimes he does it once, and then he just transforms back. But seeing as how there's not too much to really talk about here, I'm going to talk about Gluttony the boss coming up, and what you need to really know to get the best advantage against him. Because these enemies that I'm fighting right now, you've seen them before guys, you know what they do. They like to cheap shot you coming out of the husks. There's those new guys that have turned up, but as long as you get close to them and you hit them once, you've won. And then there's also going to be a room where we take on 2 of those spiders that actually killed me earlier on in the guide, and they're not really going to be much of a problem either. So Gluttony is a tough boss. Look at that fucking thing. Did you see that? Oh my goodness. There's just a magic place in hell for that kind of bullshit. Not only did he do a U-turn mid-attack, but he hit me through the wall. What a genius. Speaking of hitting people through the wall, welcome to the double spider fight, which translates to Chris is going to get them stuck in this entranceway and slap them in the dick end. So yeah, if you like your fights with an element of cheese, this one is going to be a veritable pizza. But Gluttony is one of the harder bosses in the game. He's one of the harder bosses in the game because he takes a big beating and he has a lot of damage. He has big damage. All the bosses in this game have big damage, but Gluttony especially, and it's all because of the tail whip that he does. When you enter the fight, it begins in his tail whip form, where he whips the tail around, and he can do I think 3 hits or he can do 5, it all depends. If he does 5, you get 2 opportunities to hit his tail. If you've got good timing, you can actually hit the tail on the whips, but if you have bad timing, you'll hit the armor or you'll die, because you can trade with it. Then afterwards he opens up like a pod, like a flower, and inside he looks a little bit like Nog from Final Fantasy VIII. He's got the long arms, he's got the salad fingers, he doesn't look very friendly. He's pretty sassy though, it must be said. And then you fight him in that form, in which he proceeds to do a 2-hit combo, and then he does a 3rd hit overhead sometimes. He can also spit at you, where he fires a projectile that has the worst hitbox in the game. It's fucking nowhere near you when you get hit. It's really stupid. He can breathe in and grab you by sucking you into his gob and then smacking you about, which is just instant death on this difficulty with this HP. And then he can stretch himself up vertically and start spitting poison. When he does this, you can throw the crossblade at him. You can hit him with it a couple times in between the poison blobs, and depending on your RNG will depend on how many times he spits poison. The poison that he spits lingers in the environment and hurts you if you step on it, and it hurts you a lot, guys. I once had this boss suck me towards him into a pool of poison and it killed me from full HP, so be very careful about the poison. One of the best things to do when he does the poison phase is to actually run back on yourself and make sure the poison all pools in the right place. But fundamentally, he's a really simple fight. The only problem is, once you start getting into doing damage to him, at any moment he can transform back into the tail, and if you're too close to it and you don't jump, you'll die. So you have to be aggressive, but also know that if you get too close, you will not be able to get away from the tail whip. And the tail whip is the problem, because you have to be in the corner of the room for it to dodge, to not hit you, basically. And it's really tough to do. It's super tough to do. The best thing to do is to iframe it, to run away from it, iframe it, and then hope that you can get out of the way of the second hit that inevitably comes. But if you do good damage like we're going to do, he's not going to have opportunities to do it that often. Also, if you fight him a few times, you get a feeling for when he's going to do it, because it seems to be in response to a certain amount of damage that you do. It's the same thing with the final boss. The final boss has a get off me move, where she stabs a sword into the ground, and then it does a big AoE. When you attack her enough, you get a feel for when she's going to do that to try and get you off. And it's useful because that's one of the hardest moves she has to dodge, because you have to get away from it. You can't iframe through it, it's too active, it's too large, it's just a nightmare, basically. And it's one of those problems that I always have with AoEs. It's a problem that I think that Dark Souls and Bloodborne especially handle a bit more elegantly than this game does. Once again, imitating something and doing it worse. This guy's a prick. That's why you don't see me doing many hammer combos, guys. Just then, what he did, that's why I don't use any other weapon but the whip and the nunchucks for the most, because every enemy just seems to hit through what you're doing really quickly, and if you leave any gaps, they'll just hit you. So it's very dangerous to style and do fancy combos. And there's only 2 fucking moves in the game, so the fanciest of combos is not even that fancy. Even when you swap between all the styles, it's very limited, unfortunately. But keep on moving around, keep on doing your thing. I'm going to talk about Bloodborne's AoEs, because why not, right? So, traditionally a Souls AoE is a move that is so huge and nuclear that if you're anywhere remotely near it or its relatives, you'll die. And it's something that you get used to in those games, to the extent that later on in Bloodborne, when they made them a bit tighter, you won't punish something that you can probably punish a lot more. And if you've ever done no roll in Bloodborne, which is essentially beating the bosses without rolling, you learn to understand that the hitboxes have got a lot more generosity to them than you might have expected, especially coming from Dark Souls, where most of the hitboxes were bad. Especially the jump attacks and the AoEs, they're always bad. But after a while, you come to understand that some of those hitboxes are really good, and so good you can use them. A great example is a creature called Parl, the Dark Beast. This is a monster that has a passive electricity, and when you get too close to it and it doesn't know what to do, it charges up a big EMP, and then it releases this massive electric shock around itself in a big circle of impulse. When this happens, you can either run away from it, you can eat it and take incredible damage, or you can dodge through it. And it's a big AoE, so it's got really good range, but the moment it activates, if you dodge, you will never get hit. And you can dodge immediately through it, stay in the pocket, and continue to hit that boss. And because that boss is quite weak and susceptible to being staggered, you can knock that boss down and it'll never get back up. We ain't talking about the fucking Loran Dark Beast, he's a different story. So it means that learning the timing on dodging into that AoE is incredibly important, but every part of your body tells you to dodge away. Once you understand and appreciate that dodging through it and staying close to do damage is the better option, you will bully that boss. The only difficulty is that the frame rate in that game is so shitty that doing it during that particular animation can be a pain in the ass because he kills the frame rate as much as he kills you. And that's the only real difficulty once you know the timing, if the game shits the bed or not. That is the most advantageous position in that fight to be against Parl, it's to be under his legs. There are other reasons for this, namely that you can loop him into a particular attack by standing standing in front of his right back leg, which will make him do a certain reaction, and then you just loop it and then attack him and loop it and attack him. And you learn this by fighting this boss and understanding how he works and seeing his elegance and seeing his hitboxes and where he's active and when you can do damage and when you can't. Darksiders is not really going to have much of that because it's a very simplistic game. The one thing you're going to notice about these bosses, guys, is that fundamentally they don't have many attacks. They don't have many attacks, and their attacks are kind of as plain to see. This boss coming up is a good example. He has 3 melee attacks that you have to watch out for. He has a whip in that tail form, he can spit poison, and he can grab. And that's it. I have just named less attacks than a standard enemy in Bloodborne. And this is where the Souls influence really should have been better. If you're going to imitate Dark Souls, Bloodborne, whatever you want to say, you take the good. And this is something I'm going to come to and keep coming back to because it's important. You take the interlocking, interesting world design with shortcuts that make traversing it a pleasure. You take interesting, dangerous, unique enemies dotted around the landscapes to make the entire, ecosystem seem even more intimidating than it is. You take these big, great, detailed, complex bosses with multiple different patterns, multiple phases, all kinds of attacks, complexity, subtleties, nuances. That's what you take. You take the good stuff. You don't just take all the bollocks and do it because Dark Souls does it. Oh look, your weapon goes to +10 because Dark Souls did it. Which they didn't even get that right, because in Dark Souls 1 it goes to +15, bitches. What is this, a Dark Souls 3 clone? But they've taken all the superficial, nonsensical things and left the good things. There's so many great aspects of From Software's design in those games that could have been utilised. Like, look at the levelling in Dark Souls and the scaling. You can level 7 or 8 statistics exclusively to make completely different builds that are absolutely, abjectly different to the other ones that you can use. There are weapons that benefit every single type of build you can imagine. Weapons that come alive when you scale yourself a certain way. All kinds of diversity to how you build your character. Yet in this game there's 3 stats and all of them are fucking useless but 1. Like, it's so bizarre. Speaking of bizarre as well, to get into Tearstone range for this fight, because that's another thing I need to mention, guys, the video that you're going to watch is not my fight from the walkthrough. That one had no volume. I'm going to give you a video that I made on my first playthrough, and I'm going to get hit, I think. I might take damage, which is unfortunate because my walkthrough was no damage. But you're going to notice that I'm not going to do the same damage that I'm doing here because my build wasn't as strong. It wasn't a focused strength build. But I wanted to give you volume, and if I have a fight with volume on it, even though it's my first run rather than the walkthrough run, I'm going to choose it because it's better than this song that's been playing. and it's coming up pretty soon as well. But to get into Tearstone range, what I had to do is I had to come down here, I had to trigger that big guy to fall down, and then I had to get hit by one of his claw slashes from up close, and then run away from him. It was really stupid. Super stupid. But I managed to do it, so that was good. And it was a clean fight as well. It was a very aggressive, clean fight. And I am tempted to like throw it on the end of the video, but the whole audio problem has really triggered me. And I'm so glad that the next video doesn't have it, because the next video is just as long as this one. And it's very complicated too. But here is the boss. So this is Gluttony. On this particular moment, if you notice, if you swing correctly, you can trade with his swings, but if you swing incorrectly, you can get fucked and die. So you need to be really careful. If he hits you with that phase, where he's like a rosebud, he'll kill you. It's a one-hit kill on my build. But here is the poison. Here's him coming out of the area. The best place to stand here, guys, is in the corners of the room. It gives you the most distance from the boss to get away from his slash move. Here is his breathing attack. Just run away from it, and then kind of wait for it to stop and then hit him twice. Here's his one slash, second slash, and then big overhead. Didn't do... Oh, there he was. Delayed overhead, and then just punish him accordingly. Here's him turning into the spitting poison moment. You can jump and throw the crossblade if you want to, but you don't have to. Hit him a couple times. There's the double-handed overhead. That one's a bit ambiguous to dodge, that. And this is it. This is one you've got to get away from. So just then... that was kind of perfect. I reacted with enough time and I had enough space to get away from it without worrying. But if I didn't, I could have used Havoc form and I could have used Wrath form. And I could have double jumped and done the triple jump. But here's the grab again. He telegraphs the grab by that little shuffle animation that he does. He doesn't have many moves, so you're going to spot it when he does it. And then all you need to do is get him to half HP, and the second phase of the fight turns up and it's really easy. It's a gimmick part. But it'd be really good if you could climb him here. In Devil May Cry 4, there's a boss in that game called the Echidna, and you can get on top of her platform when she does that, because that game is really, 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 really good, and the bosses in it are sublime. But this game doesn't quite have that complexity or quality, so alas, there's no punish for that other than, you know, maybe double jumping and slashing. And maybe if you do the triple jump, you can climb up after him, but I get the feeling that you can't. But anyhow, here is the final phase of this boss. When he does a bite, if you swim back towards him, it will provoke him to do the breath. And then when he does the breath, you want to swim towards the mine, so he sucks the mine in. And it's really simple. If you watch, when he sucks the mine in, it'll do damage, and then if you're quite close to him, you can bait him into biting for you again. So you'll notice I swam quite close just then to bait the bite, and then when he comes out of it, there it was, he does the bite. So as soon as he does the bite, swim towards him. And then as soon as he recovers, swim away and he'll do the breath. And it's the easiest, most like Zelda-esque boss ever. Like this guy could be Bowser. Replace him with Bowser and this would make sense. Because it's just really, really simple. But there you go. Gluttony is down. That's the end of your glue industry. And that's the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I apologise once again about the audio not being there. There's nothing I can really do about it. And it frustrates me more than it frustrates you, trust me. But thank you so much for being here, enjoying the video, listening to me ramble, and as always, you take care now.